everybody. Thank you so much for your patience. Welcome to the 10th annual TriCo Film Festival. We are so happy to see you all here tonight in all the different capacities that you're joining us. We are recording this Zoom call, and my name is Sophia Abraham-Reefson. I'm the director of this year's festival.
And I'm Teddy Ogborn, the associate director of this year's festival.
Many of you have already watched this year's film program, but you still have a week to watch the films and check out the new media sidebar at brynmarfilm.org. We are so impressed by the students' creativity in making unique, intimate, and powerful work during an exceptionally difficult year. Tonight, we're here to celebrate our wonderful filmmakers. We will start off with 3 Q&As with the filmmakers, one for each of the 3 short programs. Afterward, we will hold the awards ceremony.
For those participating on Zoom, please go ahead and turn your camera on when speaking, and otherwise please leave your camera off and mute yourself when you're not speaking. For everyone on Zoom and watching on YouTube, we encourage you to celebrate the filmmakers and their work. Write in the chat and the comments when something resonates with you, or if you just want to cheer, you can use emojis. Although we can't be together in person, let's make sure we bring the celebratory atmosphere tonight.
So we have a few thank yous before we begin. Thank you to our sponsors, the Film Studies program at Bryn Mawr College, the John B. Herford 60 Center for the Arts and Humanities at Haverford College, and the Film and Media Studies Department at Swarthmore College. And thank you so much to Bryn Mawr Film Institute for partnering with us to host this year's festival.
And we want to give our thanks to our community partners, the Bryn Mawr Film Institute, Lightbox Film Center, Philly Cam, CineSpeak, Gershman Philadelphia Jewish Film Festival, Philadelphia Film Society, Black Star, Philadelphia Latino Film Festival, USalon, Philadelphia Asian American Film Festival, Doc NYC, Undocumented Filmmakers Collective, and the Gotham Film and Media Institute, many of whom are joining us here tonight. And a huge thank you to Julien Soideau, our advisor this year, our interns Bria, Allison, and Julia, and our juror curators Cristal Sotomayor and Seth Hernandez Gronquillo. This evening would not be possible without you.
So to start us off to celebrate the films for the evening, I would love to get a few volunteers to share your name, your pronouns, any affiliation if you have one, and an image or scene that stayed with you from the festival. So anything that stayed with you from what you've watched already, we'd love to hear briefly. If possible, I'd love to see a few people share out loud on Zoom by turning your camera on and microphone on briefly, but I'd also love to see you write in the Zoom chat and the YouTube comments. Just a few volunteers.
You know what? There's a way.
What if you use your phone?
Who wants to get us started with celebrating a moment that they really are still thinking about from the festival? Feel free to write in the chat if that's more comfortable too. Okay, thanks, Vicky. So Vicky Funari wrote in the chat that she loved the image in Muthoni of the woman looking around the tree trunk to see archival footage. I agree, that was really amazing. Thank you for sharing, Vicky. And she said it was such a great fusing of present and past. Yes, that was one of the many amazing moments.
For those who can't see the YouTube comments, Abby Cox said that they really liked the image of stitching in an N95 mask from Alice's film.
Thank you for sharing that. Jake Rothman wrote in the chat that they liked Sarah's dancing in Male X. Yeah, I loved all of the dancing as well. Would 2 more people like to share a brief image? Oh, Vicky wrote, She loves buildings blowing in the wind and wind globe. That was really incredible. I agree.
Yeah, that was such a surprise to open up that film for the first time and see all that architecture moving in that same stop motion way. Really impressive.
One more image from the YouTube chat is all the images of the younger people next to their mothers. That was also from Abby Cox.
Yeah, and Woman House. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Vicky also wrote Lexi's Mandarin avocado boobs. I agree. That image has been sticking with me as well. So thank you everyone for sharing. It's nice to just get some more of the images back in our minds as we're about to discuss them tonight.
So yeah, thank you all for sharing. We're really excited to talk with our filmmakers about their work. The Q&As will be facilitated by our lovely juror curators. Cristal Sotomayor, Bryn Mawr, is a bilingual Latinx documentary filmmaker, festival programmer, and freelance journalist based in Philadelphia. Seth Hernandez Ronquillo is an undocumented immigrant filmmaker, community organizer, and co-founder of the Undocumented Filmmakers Collective. They are both artists with strong creative visions and commitment to community and collaboration, and we are truly grateful to welcome them to the TriCo this year.
Hi, thank you so much to the whole TriCo Film Festival team for this incredible opportunity. Thank you so much to Sophia, Teddy, Julian, Bria, Allison, and Julia. And of course, thank you to the incredible filmmakers who produced and shared their work with us today. Our curatorial process is honestly fueled by your imagination, your images, and your ideas. So as a former Bryn Mawr College student, class of 2017, TriCo Film Festival was my first opportunity to show my work to an audience. I'm so glad you all get to experience this festival and experience the feeling of an audience watching your work, even if it is virtually. Seth and myself have put so much heart into every single film selection and named each program to represent a piece of our heritage. So the titles are in Tagalog, Spanish, and English. So each of these film programs touch on identity. So we thought it would be good for us to share a piece of ourselves with you all as well. So we hope that you enjoy, and muchas gracias.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me along with Cristal for this evening. I just want to echo everything that Cristal mentioned. I'm super grateful to the entire TriCo team, to Cristal, who is actually the reason that I was able to be part of the co-juror and co-curator opportunity. And I'm just really super humbled to have experienced the amazing filmmaking of the students who are working on their projects. So for this evening, we will have 3 Q&As, one for each of the 3 short film programs that Cristal just talked about. And for each program, we, the moderators, will ask questions for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then we will open it up for audience Q&A for the last 5 to 10 minutes of the program. We invite you to please put questions in the chat on Zoom or the comments on YouTube. And if you are participating, a participating filmmaker in the program that we are discussing, please keep your camera on, and I'll invite you to turn on your camera for the program that I'm going to be moderating. And for everybody else, we invite you to please keep your cameras off during that time. And having said that, we will start off with our first program, which is called Diwa Espiritu Spirit, which I will be moderating. And we're segueing into that right now. Diwa is a Tagalog word that can be translated to both spirit and essence in English. And the program, this program of films brings together 4 short films that reflect on the idea of spirit and what it means to be human, threading together the body, the mind, and the spirit through the stories of pain, memory, and healing. These films dive deep into an exploration of what makes us human. So now I would like to invite the filmmakers that are in this program to turn on their videos. We have filmmakers Lexi Iglesia, who has the film Boobs for Mom. Grace Dumdao with the film Finds You Well, Abby Harris with the film Moving Freely, and Chi Shi with the film Horiznia or The Sublime. Are any of our filmmakers with us here this evening? And if they can turn on their videos and audios. Okay, amazing. Filmmakers, I am so excited to be in conversation with you all, and I am so excited and honored to have you all share your films with us. And if you all wouldn't mind putting your pronouns next to your name in your Zoom square, that would be appreciated. The same way that Lexi has it, just so that I can make sure that I am using the right pronouns when I speak with you all. I saw all your films along with Cristal, and we had a very conversation with you. Okay. Sorry, I think I'm hearing some echo. So if the audience could please turn off their mic, that would be appreciated. Cristal and I had a very rich conversation about the films that you all shared with us, and I'm curious if each of you could talk about the process of how you decided to work on the project that you did, about the filmmaking process that you had, how you came up with this, with the desire to tell the story in particular that you told through your film. And I think just for the sake of continuity and order, I'll go with Grace, and then Lexi, and then Abby, and then Chili.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here and talk about my film. I think my motivation to make this film was my class. First of all, I had to make it for my digital production fundamentals class, and I had to work within the parameters of the COVID restrictions that the school had and my very limited crew and gear. So chose something simple, something that took place within a day, and something that could use Swarthmore campus. I'm a senior, and I always thought that there are parts of Swarthmore College that really needed to be in a film and be captured in a way that goes beyond just like the everyday, oh, I'm walking to class, oh, this is an academic building, this is a pathway, that doesn't really mean anything. So I started with locations first, and then kind of worked around writing a story for my locations. I had a vision of being in the Crum during the sunset, going up the path that I walked down, McGill Walk. And yeah, I wanted to make a little love letter to Swarthmore's campus while making a film, my first one.
Lexi, you want to take us away?
Yeah, hi. Hi, everyone. I'm so grateful and happy to be here. Yeah, thank you for introducing us. It's very flattering. I guess, I get kind of Zoom shy, so I'm just gonna try to like get it all out. But yeah, I mean, I was making this class for Vicky Funari's the documentary body class, and it was my last film class that I'm taking here at Haverford because I'm graduating in like 9 days or so. It's kind of bizarre. But the film started off as a poem, and I mean, I usually just scribble down like words that kind of seem like they could be something. And then I just keep them in a journal. So it started off as a poem, and then I tried to piece together different images of breasts. Like I went on this weird deep dive, and then I started webbing them together on my wall. And yeah, I guess like I mean, the film was made all in my room, except for the part towards the end where I drove to the Ardmore Junction SEPTA station. So I was trying to get the most creative as I could during this COVID time, and I was working by myself. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say about the process.
Thank you, Lexi. Abby, would you like to share?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for watching all our films and things like that. I'm in the same class as Lexi, actually. So my film was also for Vicky's class. And right off the bat, I had the idea to talk about my time in gymnastics and everything that came along with it, and how I am where I'm now versus like physically with my body and mentally. And I really wanted to push myself to like reimagine and relearn my body and how it works, and that it's still the same, like, you know, moving forward in the future, you're still the same person, you still have the same body, but you need to grow within it. And basically, I think I shot everything in one day in VCam, actually, and I just kind of went with it and rolled with the flow because I had ideas generally, but I just kind of went and turned the camera on and just did my best and let everything come out that I wanted to talk about and show. And then I had my friend Molly come and help with all the dancing things, but because I really wanted their help, because I wanted to really work on that and push myself to put dancing of myself on camera. But yeah, so that's really it.
Thank you, Abby. Chili, I remember pronouncing your name correctly, by the way, Chili. Yes, would you like to go next, please?
Yeah, it's chili, just like the food. I'm Chili, nice to meet you. I guess for me, I was at home. I was taking online class from being at home in Budapest. And I guess being at home kind of necessitates a lot of introspection, but I was also taking Rodney Evans's class at Swarthmore, and it's called Autobiography and the Archive. So, you know, our final assignment, our final film project kind of, you know, had to be, it wasn't very strict, but it kind of had to focus around, you know, using archival footage and sort of making an autobiographical film. So I think obviously, you know, in combination with being at home, just this general air of introspection or really focusing on yourself, or you know, thinking about things in this way that kind of uses the images and things like that. And I feel like, you know, everyone has complicated relationships to their home. So kind of being at home during COVID kind of, you know, facilitated the theme of my film, I think.
Come through. Yes, Chili. Thank you so much for sharing that. And what I appreciate also about the work that all you four amazing filmmakers presented is we get a little like taste of different genres in this program. We got narrative with Grace, we got documentary with Abby and Lexi, borderline experimental, and we got experimental with Chili in this program. So and to what Chili was saying, you know, I'm actually not just with her film. I think in all four of you's film, I saw a level of introspection, you know, around mental health, around like processing, you know, how your relationship with body, your relationship with loved ones, mothers in particular, you know. And it seemed to me like you all like dove deep into your spirits, hence the title of this program. When I think about introspection, sometimes it can feel like a really like scary and daunting experience, even like when you dive deep into yourself. You know, I'm curious for the four of you, what was like the most challenging aspect of that process of developing the story, you know, finding what resonated with you, what made it to the final cut, you know, and grappling with the introspection and sometimes the grappling with yourself almost, you know, in that process. That was a very loaded question. So take it as you want, however you want, and whoever wants to go first, please.
I can go first. Yeah, a lot of introspection in Finds You Well. I think this pandemic put me in a really bad place mentally, just vaguely throughout the whole thing. Like it averages out as bad. So that's kind of where I was mentally, and I suffer from depression and anxiety. So I wanted to capture the feelings that I was feeling about leaving school and having school be so awful or just weirdly formatted this semester, and the struggles that I felt mentally, like having to log on to a Zoom call, like the energy that that took, and pretend like everything's okay, camera's on, I'm smiling, stuff like that. So I acted in my own film, and because the crew was very, very small, it was mostly me and a tripod, and that helped me kind of tap into my vulnerability when I'm the only one in my dorm room, filming myself, trying to portray the emotions that I've been feeling the whole semester. You really think about what you're feeling and how to portray that. And going through and editing and throwing it together was really, really 50% of the struggle. You can act, but then the editing needs to have the feeling of the anxiety that I'm feeling, or just uneasiness or tension. So in editing, you just have to think about reliving what you felt and what the inspiration was. So yeah, it was pretty hard, but it made for something that I'm like proud of, because it really shows how I've been feeling and who I am.
Thank you, Grace, for being so vulnerable and sharing with us in this Q&A. Lexi, Abby, or Chili, any one of you want to go? Not necessarily in that order. Who wants to go next?
Go.
Abby, please.
Okay. I guess, yeah, obviously there's a lot of introspection when I made it, because it's been a few years since I've stopped doing gymnastics, and it's been a long time since I wanted to think about those things and about everything. And I think definitely one of the hardest part was editing, was adding the photos and the videos for me, and that part. And I guess the other part was like letting myself be open and like honest about all of it on camera, because I think when I talk about like the topic that I picked, and like I definitely joke a lot about it, and like if I were to talk about it with friends or like before I made this, so I'm being honest with myself and like how it actually affected me is definitely something that was very hard for me. And like just Vicky's class helped me pick this like topic and helped me actually do it and get it out, so hopefully I can not think about it as much. But yeah, definitely dancing on like, and just letting myself move. I mean, that's the title, moving freely, just move without in the camera and let everything be seen. And just thinking about it was very difficult, but I'm so glad I did it and was not forced, but I forced myself, so.
Thank you, Abby. Lexi or Chili?
Yeah, I guess like the most challenging part for me, so I was trying to like, I mean, we've all been dealing with this pandemic for more than a year. And I mean, we've been dealing with like so much violence as well, you know, throughout time, just being human beings on this planet. And for some reason, I just like, as someone who dealt with death as a child, I just felt like I needed to know what it meant to feel, or what it meant to be like dealing with death. And like I was recording like with this point and shoot, right? And I remember just like a lot of the audio that I had to go through involved me yelling, and that was very challenging, because I had to just get it out and try to talk myself through it. And I was just trying to like balance this confusion between like self-righteousness and then, you know, and being part of the Dead Moms Club, if that makes any sense. And I still sit with this confusion. I feel like all of us are still sitting with like struggling and trying to understand things and like wrap our heads around it. So honestly, the most challenging of all of that was like getting to share it. And I just remember putting off sharing it in my class. So it was very difficult to get myself to share it with the TriCo Film Festival and then my family. So, and my friends who are out here right now. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for your support. yeah.
Thank you, Lexi. Shelley, would you like to answer this question also?
Sure. I guess I feel kind of ambivalent overall about filmmaking itself, I guess, because, you know, I think the obvious thing to say about, and in retrospect, I probably should have named my film something easier to pronounce for people, but I feel like, you know, it's the easy route is to say that, you know, these are personal movies, and so a lot of it is about unloading or exposing yourself in a certain way. But on the other hand, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like montage maybe is like another way of knowing, as Lex said, another way of knowing or processing emotions that doesn't necessarily have to be like academic or, you know, psychological or, you know, based in words. And I think that is obviously something that thematically I struggle with in my film too, you know, this idea of words not really being enough. And so using montage as another method of, you know, maybe gaining like alternate modes of knowing in terms of like how you live or are in the world. But I feel hesitant about thinking about, you know, films as like, you know, always like a self-exposition kind of thing. Because on the other hand, I feel like it's, you know, in giving emotions that are kind of messy, this formal nature, it's also an act of concealing in a way, right? Like, because I can now present this in a very formal way that isn't actually, you know, the experience behind the film. So I guess for me, part of it, you know, formally speaking, is also about hiding and being able to continue to hide, you know, through this artistic manner. And you know, when I brought my first draft, just like a short 2 to 4 minute like montage with a little bit of sound I made to class, you know, a lot of the critique that I got from my classmates was that, you know, they said that I wasn't like necessarily invested because, you know, it didn't feel personal. But to me, like, it was really interesting because just the video with the sound to me felt already like too much exposition in a certain way. So I guess I just feel really ambivalent in the end.
Okay, who are all of you? You are like just, I want to be like you all when I grow up. Thank you so much for sharing such insightful responses to that question. And with that, I want the audience to also get to experience what it's like to ask the 4 brilliant filmmakers in front of us a question. So are there any questions from YouTube, the YouTube live stream, or the Zoom chat that we'd like to share? Julia or Bria, are there any questions that's coming up? Or also we invite folks to share their comments. I see some comments have already come up on the Zoom chat, and I'm assuming also that's the same in YouTube live stream. I'm just not able to see it right now. But while we're waiting for questions from the audience, if there's no questions from the audience yet, I'll indulge myself in asking another question from all of you. I'm just curious, you know, when I was watching y'all's films, like, I'm curious what influences you all have had in terms of your artistic practice, your creative style, or even just the project you made. What inspiration or which filmmakers are you all drawing from, if you're open to sharing? And anyone can go first, or freestyle, whoever wants to answer that question. Grace, it looks like you're ready to say something. No pressure. If you want to, please go ahead.
I can. I think my inspiration going into filming Finds You Well was Nomadland, and Chloe Zhao is a director with like the long tracking shots. My camera person had never filmed anything before, and I had a study camp with a teacher how to use it, and then just explain like, okay, this is what I want. We're just gonna walk and we're gonna go. And it didn't turn out exactly how I wanted to, but the inspiration was those like long tracking shots with like all the background kind of blowing the audience away while the performer is not really doing anything other than like existing. So that's one of my inspirations.
Grace, it's affirming hearing you say that, because when Cristal and I were talking about your film, I was mentioning it reminds me of like the scene when you go from the grass when you were talking to your friend back to your room. It was like, this feels like Chloe Zhao, Terrence Malick kind of style of filmmaking. So it came through. It came through, friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's actually a question from the audience that I would like to just uplift since we're running out of time. But John Muse on the YouTube live stream asks whether any of the filmmakers experience the making of their films shift their relationship to their topics. I hope I understood your question, John Muse. Did any of the filmmakers experience the making of their films shift their relation to their topics? Would anyone else like to respond? Maybe we'll give the floor to other folks since Grace got to answer that last question. Chili, please.
I feel like obviously, like, yes, I feel like maybe, like I said, making films is kind of a way to process a lot of things that, you might not have, or other means sometimes lack tools for. I think specifically because my film was kind of right after like a diagnostic process. I think in the end, sort of making this film that was more experimental and more, that was sort of questioning alternate modes that don't necessarily, like other ways of thinking about, your experience or, your psychological state or whatever, without necessarily having to resort to the same old, tropes, terminology, symptoms. I think the film kind of helped push me in the direction of kind of rejecting a diagnosis, or at least trying to think about, other ways of knowing or existing that doesn't have to be, by the word diagnosis itself, kind of a totalizing, a totalizing mode. So I think the answer would be yes.
Thank you, Chili, for sharing that response to John's question. I know we only have 2 minutes left, so just to be mindful of time and give the rest of the program the time that they need, I'm gonna pivot to Lexi and Abby. I'm curious if there's anything that you all would like to share that we haven't been able to discuss yet. Lexi, or anything that you want to add to what's been said already, or anything that you've said, or any responses to the same questions that I asked Grace and what was asked of Chili. Abby, you want to go ahead?
Sure, I can answer John's question. I think my relationship with the topic has definitely shifted, but I don't think it's completely there yet to moving. I mean, I guess the question wasn't about moving past, but I guess this film has helped me move slightly past everything, but it's only like a first stepping stone. But I'm super happy that I made it because it's all been trapped inside, I guess you could say, and this is my second, like, I'm only a sophomore, so this is the only second short film I've ever made. So and I'm coming into like knowing that I want to do film in the future. So I'm really glad that my art and like figuring out what I want to do with my future is helping me move past like things in the past that have happened to me. So I'm glad that my view of the subject has like slightly shifted, but I'm hoping to move even further past everything. Yeah.
Unleash all of it, Abby. Come through. Thank you. Lexi, you have the final word. You want to share anything?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I love everyone's comments. Like, I feel like all of you guys you're so brilliant. I really liked all your films. Just wanted to put that out there. I think my response is kind of a fusion of John's question and the question that you just asked, Set, which is that making my film, and it's actually kind of related to my thesis, and that I've been obsessed with the idea of reconstruction through images. I've been inspired by this one film named by this brilliant Cambodian French filmmaker named Rithi Pan. It's this experimental documentary called L'Image Manquante. It's really good. Everyone should watch it. As well as Roland Barthes, Camera Lucida, of course, like writing about, you know, your dead mom and making a film for your dead mom. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. But yeah, thank you for everything, everyone.
Yes, and to the filmmakers, I invite you to check out the chat box. So much love for all four of you. And I'm just super humbled to have been given the opportunity and the privilege to moderate a conversation with your amazing selves. Agents better be watching out for you all, because y'all are like just out here shining talent. So thank you everyone, to Grace, Lexi, Abby, and Chili for sharing their insights on their filmmaking. And I'm going to invite us all to turn off our camera and mute ourselves as we pivot to the next program with Cristal. Thank you all.
Hello, hello. Okay, so now we're on to the Q&A for the second program, Buka Ruptura Fracture. So please make sure to put your questions in the Zoom chat or comment in YouTube. If you are a participating filmmaker in this program we are discussing, please keep your camera on. And everybody else, please turn off your cameras at this time. So the filmmakers are Jake Rothman with Imaginary, Hyo Hyung Nadia Kim with Wind Globe, Shiko Joroge with Mithoni, Alice Hu with KN95, Bria Dinkins with Male X. If you could all please turn on your cameras. Great. So the program Buka Ruptura Fracture has five short films that Seth and I really wanted folks to have a journey and kind of examine gaze and the self. And really it opens up with, you know, imaginary, the struggle between a young man and his imaginary friend. Then that goes into the idea of sight and connection, and then evolves through the films Wind Globe and Mithoni. And the final two films in the program, KN95 and Male X, examine identity and reevaluate the self. So thank you all so much for creating these amazing films. And so I will be dropping in the chat here the order that we can speak, because I found that that's much easier when we're doing Zoom chats. It's just the order that the films are presented in the program. So I'm not picking favorites here. So my first question to you all is, how did you get started with the idea for your film? So they're all very imaginary and very creative in their own way, and also deeply rooted in your personal experiences. So could you please speak a little bit about the ideas that you had in the making of your film?
Thank you so much for that question, and just it's great to be here. I think so. My brother and I collaborated on making this short film, and we'd made a few together over the course of the pandemic during quarantine together, because we didn't really have much else to do. And I think that we found that it was just frustrating because we wanted to make stuff, but we didn't really have anybody to be in them other than me if he's behind the camera. And so what we wanted to try out was, what if we could make the camera one of the characters? And so then we experimented with, what does that then mean for the narrative? And then probably that means that the character is maybe not actually there. Maybe it's just in the actor's mind. And so we tried out that, and we found that it was definitely really tough because we didn't want to have that many cuts so as to most make it look like somebody's actual experience. But then there were shadows of the camera everywhere, and it was just technically it was very challenging. But it was a lot of fun to make. And I think that the story of this imaginary friend being liberated, I think maybe came from a place of wanting to be free from the kind of tight feeling of quarantine, wanting to just leave it and go somewhere else. So that's where that came from.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone for coming. The film Wind Globe, I got the idea for when I was studying abroad in Edinburgh in spring 2020 when COVID hit. And it was my first time being in Edinburgh, and I just I feel like when I was first there, the first thing I noticed was how much it rained, how windy it was, and how much like how all the streets were cobblestones. And I'm the type of person that takes a really long time to get used to an environment and really feel at home there. I felt for a long time when I was there that I wasn't a part of this city. I didn't know how to, like, I don't know, just enjoy the city or be a part of it. And I started noticing how different it was from my home Korea and different from even from the US, where I study. And I wanted to, and there was a moment sometime when it got warm, I was walking on the cobblestone and I realized that I wasn't like tripping on the like little stones anymore. And that's when I kind of realized, oh, I've gotten used to this place already. And I wanted to capture that in this film.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can go next. Yeah, hi, I'm Alice. Thank you for having me here. Yeah, so my film, it was actually born out of a final project for a class, Visualizing Borderlands, taught by Elena Guzman. And the assignment was to create an autoethnographic film, which for people who don't know, an autoethnography basically is like examining how social and political structures sort of like manifest personally. So I knew like inherently it was going to be a very personal film. And then like there were a lot of things I wanted to focus on, but in the end, I decided to focus on like my Asian American identity just because it's been like such a salient part of my experience. And then initially with my film, initially it was like very disorganized. Like I didn't really know where I was going to go because I had so many ideas. But I remember around that time, it was like around Thanksgiving time, and I ended up like visiting my parents and like going home. And then, so the first thing that happened when I went home, the first thing that happened, my mom made sure I had like something to eat. And then secondly, she started packing this box of masks that you see in the film. And that was all, it was like all unscripted, and it was just like naturally, like, I feel like every time I've seen her during this past year, she just gives me more masks. So I just decided to film that. And then from there, it was just the idea of like the mask as a metaphor of my identity, and like how ultimately it's like a source of pain, like trying to navigate that identity.
Yeah, so I started the film. I worked on the film for the digital production fundamentals class with Grace under the great kind of instruction of Heidi Saman. And I really, in the beginning, Heidi asked us, start thinking about our final projects, and, if you were really more interested in documentary, more experimental film, making narrative styles. And I was more kind of attracted to documentary just because of my background in anthropology and just the other projects I had worked on. But I found I lived with 10 other women this semester, and it was just so nice in a lot of ways, and we had a lot of conversations that I think inspired a lot of our kind of projects for that class. And I knew I wanted to talk about, I wanted it to feel personal. As a senior, I wanted it kind of, like Grace said, a love letter, kind of just SWAT. I wanted it to be a kind of, a kind of goodbye, a kind of reflection. So I was really just thinking a lot about my journey, like as a Black queer person, like, and just like learning about myself through Swarthmore and this experience. And I really was like, we talk about the male gaze a lot, what would my life be without that, or, and then that kind of let me down this wormhole of like, of a lot of things about the kind of how that, the kind of impossibility of that situation, and also the kind of like limitations of freedom, and just the ways intersectional just violence and a lot of different things I was thinking about. So, but I also realized I let it kind of, become its own thing and kind of playing with the darker kind of side of what I was thinking about in terms of what it would be like if there was a, psychedelic drug that was mass produced for us to take. And then I honestly didn't really fully finish the film. And I realized that when Heidi kind of said that at our final showing, and I was like, yeah, I kind of just put it together. And, you're right, there isn't that kind of ending. But I wanted to explore joy. I'm not in the film myself, but I wanted to kind of show what, specifically how, Heidi has talked about the different power behind the camera and how the camera's not neutral. And I also knew this from kind of thinking about anthropology. So just wanting to show, experiment with the way that things are shot and the way that I was presenting friends and making it a really collaborative process is what I wanted to start with and kept going with that.
Yeah, I mean, when Seth and I were curating this program, we really thought about the self a lot. That's actually why we called it fractura buca. We really were thinking of this is really a coming of age story in some ways, but it's also really examining the gaze and reimagining the self through the film. So I wanted to ask you about that theme. Why were you so driven to tell this story right now? And what has been your filmmaking process during the pandemic? Because I imagine that's been very difficult. It's been difficult for everybody, but it must be even more difficult as a student, right? So could you speak a little bit about that? I guess anyone can go first.
I can start again, but I guess, sorry, I'm just thinking about your two questions. I guess in terms of thinking about, it was definitely rooted in the self and their personal experience. And and it, even though it was really close to me, obviously not being in it and not being like telling a kind of specific story, I was just really, I don't know, I was really interested in the ways I was thinking, well, how do I perceive my friends? How do I perceive myself? And in what ways does that kind of go against the ways that I think that, others see me and perceive me? And in terms of the filmmaking process, I was just thinking about, how can I make it work? There's a point where, the deadline's coming up and I was just like, I was working with a lot of people who are my friends who wanted to be there for me and help me, but also had their own finals and other things to prepare for in their own lives. And I just started letting go. And I was like, I will make it work. I will make this, I'll make it happen, in one way or another. And I think when I started letting go of my initial vision, just letting things happen, that was when I felt like, oh, wow, this is what I've been trying to get the whole time. But yeah, definitely kind of some difficulties with like equipment, but we had a really great film and media studies assistant, Catalina Lassen, who like made sure we were like, had all the things we tried to, had to get, and, dealing with like the media center not being open in the same way. But it was very tricky, but lots of creativity in terms of like how to make things work and how to collaborate and stuff and make things happen.
I think so for I made this during the summer last year, and I made the sets and the puppets all on like a kind of a table that I had in my room. So really 70% of making that film was just me building puppets and building the sets, and gathering just materials for building the set. Yeah, I think I kind of wanted to make something where I didn't have to go out and look for locations or actors. So I wanted to make everything where I had control over the sets and the angles and everything. So that's why I decided to go with stop motion. And I think just making it and thinking about me, I was just kind of frustrated at that point with myself. Like, why can't I just, I don't know, just go out in a new place and have fun and meet new people? And maybe that's just me being an introvert. But I wanted to explore that and my relationship with the new environment, as I'm preparing to move to a new city again after I graduate. I'm sure I'm going to be repeating the same process of being like stuck in my room and just all that stuff. But it's kind of, I think, just a reflection of myself. So.
I can go ahead. I think for my filmmaking process, surprisingly, I found that quarantine was really helpful for me. And I'm very lucky about that because it kind of forced me to just like kind of get back to the basics and relearn how do you make a movie. And I haven't been making them for that long, but when I started off, I made them by myself. And so I'd already gotten used to being like in front of the camera, behind the camera, having like control over all elements of it. And so when it came time for quarantine, I didn't feel like I was missing out on any actors or people that I would like to work with. And it was really nice because it allowed me to collaborate with my brother. And so in that way, the filmmaking process I thought was more creative than it's been in the past for me. And then about the first question with the gaze, I think, like I'd said before about wanting, I think, freedom from quarantine and having that be some sort of inspiration for the narrative of this movie. I think just being able to create, being able to put the audience into the mind of a character, I think something that I would have liked to. Like I wanted to be the audience for this movie. I wanted to be able to feel like I was somebody else and I could just run away. And so I think that's what informed me wanting to work on the gaze in this movie.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I had never actually like made a film before the pandemic, so I don't think I can like make a comparison, but I do think just being in quarantine in general, like being isolated for so long, just led to a lot of introspection, which I've noticed has like really informed my work, not just in filmmaking, but just like overall. And I think I'm not sure if this like directly answers the question, but like examining the gaze and reimagining the self, I it was like really important to me to incorporate like all of the violence that has occurred against the Asian community this past year. I just felt like, yeah, like I don't know, like I felt like through my other academic work, it just like this idea of like anti-Asianness like sort of seep through and like everything I did last semester. And I think specifically with the metaphor of the mask, I really wanted to make kind of like the pain of like navigating racialization like visible, because I feel like that's oftentimes it's it's like it's hard to, I mean, even though it's felt so strongly, but I think like for other people it's hard to see it. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, there we go.
Yeah, thank you all for your really thoughtful responses. I think now we will be moving to the audience Q&As. So does anybody have any questions? I haven't really been seeing anything, but I've got so many more questions. So if we haven't gotten anything in yet, I can totally ask my next question. So maybe I'll just ask my question just to get things started, right? So something that Seth and I were talking a lot about was the fact that the pandemic is really visible in all of the films that were submitted to us, every single film. You can feel restlessness, you can feel how important specific issues are that are being highlighted during the pandemic, particularly when it comes to sexism and racism. And I know that for a lot of you that have spoken so far, filmmaking is a way of therapy. It is a way of learning about yourself, of exposing a part of yourself, of really growing. So I wanted to ask you all, how have you grown in this filmmaking experience, making your incredible films?
I can start. I think just making the hardest part, to be honest, about making the film was how hot it was in my room. And I couldn't keep a fan on or the AC on because the wind would, when I'm taking like the different shots, it would change the movement of the, I don't know, the clothing of the puppets or anything. So I was just stuck in that heat for hours and hours. And if something went wrong, I'd have to shoot the whole thing over again. Because every little detail in stop motion is so visible when something is like off, even by an inch. And I kind of just doing that made me think like, wow, if I can do this, I can probably do anything else. So I think that's just kind of what I thought about when I made it.
Yeah, so for me, I had actually like never made a film before this. So I guess just like beyond learning a lot of like the technical skills of like how to shoot a film, initially I had shot so many of my footage like vertically and I like didn't know initially that I was supposed to do that. And then also just like how to edit a film, I had never done that before, but I think this experience really just like got me interested in filmmaking in general and just like knowing how it can be such like a powerful agent for like social commentary. I didn't really realize that until I had made this film and like yeah, I hadn't had an interest in film before this, but now I do. So
One of the things that was a big takeaway from making this one is learning how to handle so many elements of the filmmaking process at once. Because after looking at the footage and then I got to see myself in it, I was like, I don't really like how I did in that, but I couldn't really pay attention to how I was acting because of all the other things I had to like pay attention to and keep track of. And so I think I'm starting to learn that if I'm going to be doing multiple things and making a movie, I have to pay attention to each of them independently and not just like how the overall thing is going to look, because each thing adds a lot to it or can subtract a lot from it. And I also learned about like the importance of music, because for this movie we worked with one of our friends who scored it, and he sent us one track that we put over it, and then it made the whole thing feel really dreamy in a way that we weren't totally interested in. And so we talked to them about it to see if maybe we could make it faster paced or whatever he knew. And so then that made it more of a thriller-esque type movie, the way when he upped the tempo of it. And so it was cool to learn how powerful the music can be in terms of influencing the way the movie feels.
And what I think I would say is I felt like there's two things. One, I learned the value of just collaboration in that way, working with mostly non-actors and doing kind of weird, maybe, okay, like let's try it kind of stuff. And, having my friends be a part of it, that was just really important to me, but also, yeah, so in collaboration and shared ownership. Because I couldn't make that film without my friends and my roommates being a part of that and helping. And when I'm trying to like figure things out, other people kind of being like, well, how can we help you be be a better director here? And I'm like, okay, like thank you. And it was really great to have like friends like Grace like be able to translate a lot of the things I was thinking and make it happen beautifully. And Sarah to like go in the street and dance when I'm like, will you try this? And then the second thing was really like a lot of the thing I kind of talked about with friends was, I want to be a filmmaker, I hope I'm, how am I going to go from Swarthmore and, try to make films. And I realized I'm like, I can do it. I'm already doing it. We're already doing it. And the kind of realization that you don't necessarily need someone else to validate you or a larger kind of institution to accept you and be like, your work's good. You're like, I can make work. And there are a lot of people that will help me make it. So I think those were some takeaways I had.
Yeah. And so, your work all of you is very inspiring. I love talking to filmmakers, and actually my favorite question to ask each filmmaker, I ask people that only answer with one word, so hopefully you can come up with one word, is what do you hope people get out of your film? So take a second and then feel free to respond.
I can start again. I'm not really sure, to be honest, but I think the main thing is maybe just something that I thought about when I was making like the wind globe, like the snow globe, was how like when everything is just like crammed together and it's like a little thing, looking at it, it can just feel, and especially if you're afraid of that thing, it feels like, I don't like you can't break the glass, you can't get inside it. But once you kind of like move back and look at the whole thing, you realize it's not, I don't know, maybe it's not a big deal. You don't really have to be afraid of it. So maybe, I don't know, just having like a wider perspective of something will help you not be fearful of it. Not sure.
Don't make me call on people.
I'm not really sure either, and this is not going to make sense fully, but I would say conversation in the sense of, in my film, it's a lot of images. At some points, there's a lot of dance and movement, but I interspersed it with like kind of conversation and different kind of people sharing their thoughts of, you know, the ways that the male gaze feel like affects them or their own experience of their gender, and how, yeah, and just a conversation amongst friends. And I think, yeah, I wanted to highlight that, like thinking critically about these things that affect us in everyday life. And yeah, so conversation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I also can't really think of like one word, but I definitely think like ultimately I wanted my film to like push forward, or maybe like one word would be like visibility. Like I wanted just like more representation of the Asian American experience. Yeah, because it's just something that I've just have not seen in media at all, and just like I mean, this is just one film I made, but I feel like I could have made like so many more just based on the complexity of like what it means to be Asian American. So yeah.
I think the word would be cool. Like not like I didn't really have like big expectations for this, or like I really want somebody to go through quite an experience watching this. I just kind of figured this might be an interesting idea, and maybe if somebody thinks it's cool, then then that would feel good.
Well, thank you all so much. You're all so inspiring. Please turn off your cameras and we will get started with the next Q&A.
I just want to jump in one really quick from the YouTube comment section, because Rodney Evans mentioned that TriCo is currently in Nairobi where it's super late, but just to make sure that her film gets a little bit of love. Vicky mentioned in the comment section that she loved the image in Mutoni of the woman looking around the tree trunk to see the archival footage. And just overall, all of the films were really great, but I just wanted to put that in before we move on.
Thank you for that, Julia, and thank you to all the filmmakers. This has been so wonderful to hear from you all. Teddy and I will be facilitating the third Q&A for the shorts program Katawan Cuerpo Body, which was also curated by Seth and Cristal, but they've allowed us to facilitate this one Q&A. So joining us will be the filmmakers Sarah Burns-Zeev of Woman House 403, The Table is Turning, Jia Jishin of Slow Boat to China, and Erica Conning and Zarahi Rivas of Inappropriate. So if those filmmakers would please turn their cameras on and join us for the Q&A. And also to all of our audience members, please feel free to write questions in the comments and the chat as they come up for you, and then we can always ask them at the end. So thank you. Is Jishin here? Okay.
Yes, I am, but my video is disabled by the host.
Oh, sorry. I'll check that out.
One moment, Jishin.
All right, thank you. Glad we're all here. Okay, well, it was really wonderful to see all of your films. And one thing that I noticed about these films in particular is that they all involve filming bodies, and either your own body or the body of close friends of yours. And these films also address what it feels like to experience a male gaze, a white gaze, and a public gaze. And so I was curious about what it felt like to film your own body and to film the bodies of those close to you, if it felt like it challenged that gaze or just how it personally felt to you. Would Erica and Zarahi like to go first? Since there's two of you, it's less scary.
Yeah, I think, at least for me, it was easier to film with Sarai because I think we did a lot of communication between each other, like what shots are comfortable for you, like do you like how this looks, because again it was like a lot of personal shots of like our bodies, and I think we did have a lot of fun with it though. We were mostly filming in my room, which was like, you know, we had to time it right with the lighting, and I think it was easiest because we had each other to sort of talk it through, like figuring out you know, what angles to play around with and like what felt the most comfortable for each of us.
Yeah. In terms of like gaze and stuff, or it's related to what you're talking about, where we felt really comfortable, where we talk about like, oh, feeling uncomfortable with other people looking at us or our bodies in relation to that, but kind of tagging into what you're talking about, I think in the process of filming, it was nice because like we were so comfortable with each other, or there isn't that like gaze or that like criticalness at all in the process. It was actually like really fun, I guess, to be vulnerable or like exposing yourself actually. So
Okay, I can go next. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Sarah. Well, it was for me a very interesting experience. I'm not someone who has a great like body confidence, and you know, putting myself in that pool, which is very, very cold during the month of February and March. It was freezing. I was freezing, but that's exactly what I wanted, because I wanted to film how my body was shivering, how my body reacted to certain aspects. I can go next. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, dude. Oh, I wanted to show the audience how my body was reacting to the nature. And also, yeah, I filmed my friend Margin as well. And I made it clear to them that beforehand that it's really a film about bodies, because you know it was a film made during COVID, and I thought that was really, in terms of filmmaking, COVID took away a lot, but what they can take away is our own performance, our own body. So it is to some extent our last resort, but also it's a very rich resource. And as you dig down, you can get a lot of things out of it, lots of things out of it. So it was a great experience.
So in my film, I didn't film myself at all really, but was filming my friends and the people I live with. And I'm someone who I like people watching in general and observing people, but I don't know, I found it very intimate in the moment when filming my friends, because I don't know, it felt less about the body for me all of a sudden. I am a very movement oriented person, but looking at each individual standing there, especially with the projection of their mother, it just made me look at them in a different way than I had before, even these people that I was seeing and living with every single day.
Great, thank you for those wonderful responses. I have a question related to that, and then more specifically about the framing of bodies in your films, because I noticed a lot of fragmentation, whether that is sort of this literal fragmentation that we can see in Jishin's film with the cutting up of the Chinese characters and then the restructuring of them. And then in Woman House, the table kind of bisects the bodies of the film or the participants, of the speakers. And then, of course, in Inappropriate, you have those cropped in frames. So I was really interested to hear about, in these films that are so specifically about relationships to bodies and identity, why the choice to fragment in this way? Because it really worked for me, but it initially seems sort of this counterintuitive thing. But when you're sort of cropping in and focusing on different parts of the bodies, I thought that was such a fascinating perspective to take. So whoever wants to start first talking about how they either fragmented the body or fragmentation generally within their films, I'm very interested in that.
Well, I can go first. Fragmentation is an interesting topic because initially when I wrote the script of the film, it was even more fragmented, and later as I did the film, I felt it could be a little bit more tightened up. So I actually deleted some of the scenes, and I think for me, using fragmentation in this film is first just staying true to the experience that I'm having in the past few years, not just COVID. Maybe COVID intensified that, but I guess the fragmentation of self is something that I think is so fundamental in the experience of diaspora. And second, I think fragmentation is this I guess for me it's an exploration of the filmic form. Like how can I twist it, add something to it, spice it up, putting different thing to it, and make it not look like a hodgepodge. I'm trying to find some coherence in the fragmentation. So these two things I think go hand in hand. It's not just I'm trying to throw in many things as I can, but I guess more importantly, and it's a long process of finding some coherence through these fragments. And I guess that's a very interesting part of the filmmaking.
Thank you. Yeah, I like that phrase, incoherence through the fragments. Thank you for that.
I can go. So I think in terms of fragmentation, I honestly didn't think as much about when they're sitting at the table, the fragmentation of their bodies, but it was interesting to reflect on now. But I think in terms of like the composition of the film as a whole, I feel like fragmentation is a way, like for me, like changing the focus, and then which is all I really enjoy editing. Like that's the part of the filmmaking process that I think I enjoy the most, and which is literally taking these fragments, like all of these components, and putting it together to create a film. And so playing around with how that changes the focus. And then I guess when I was doing the shots of the women standing against the wall, that I did think about in terms of, which I guess still has to do with focus, but of like full body shots and then medium close up and close up. So again, kind of bringing the focus in, but then also like allowing it to settle before it transitions into a next, like, I guess, fragment or idea.
Erica and Zari, would you want to comment on those close framings or those crops in your film?
I think from us from the beginning, we knew we were gonna like, even when we were planning, it was gonna be a lot of like close-up shots, very fragmented. Like we thought the visuals would look good or was going along with like kind of the messaging or what we wanted to focus on in terms of like body. And in the beginning when we were planning it out too, because I had previously I worked on like a shorter like video and I had even much more like zoomed in or close-up shots of my body, and I liked how it looked on the focus of like, oh, my body, and like just showing like my skin or like flaws or just the texture. I really enjoyed that aspect of how I could like show my body. And so in talking with Erica, we like agreed like, yeah, let's have it be like super like close-ups or like the fragmented too, even like our faces too, how we never showed our eyes and stuff. It was definitely like thought out where it's like we want the focus to be on our bodies and skins, but maybe even not so much our identities in a way we can't tell, like you can't see our faces, like who are we or whatever. It's just mostly our voices, I guess, identifying us and like our stories. But I don't know. I liked how it looked. Do you want to say anything, Erica?
Yeah. I remember watching actually Zarai's like previous film with like the texture in the skin. And even when we were talking about it, we were very much like thinking about how, you know, there are a lot of parts of our bodies that only we really know about or we really see and think about in certain ways. And like, I think we, like, as we were talking about like the stories we said in the film, we like were recording in my closet, like just talking about our bodies. And like, it was really like intentional, I think, to sort of bring to light the parts of our bodies that like the public doesn't see. And yeah, I think it was just really also inspired by like our own similar aesthetics of like what is interesting and visually like captivating to us, like ooh, like how tattoos look on our skin or like how these scars or like these marks look texture wise. So definitely like we were just very interested in like very zoomed up shots from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like what you said about sort of the anonymity of those cropped shots as well. Because what the intimate stories that you're sharing, those shots in themselves, really sort of like fill in. We don't have to like rely on this total perspective of who you are because, or proposed total perspective through an image, because you're sharing that with us in so many other ways. So I really appreciated that about your film. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's really amazing hear you all speak about your films. I am going to invite audience members to start sharing any questions they have in the chat or in the comments. In the meantime, I do have one more question. And I'm thinking about what Jishin said about the pandemic and how it can change so many things and take away so many things, but one thing it can't take from you is your own body. And I'm just curious about, I don't know, so many aspects of the body I just feel like have been really present for a lot of people in the pandemic, whether that's the anxiety of the body failing or getting sick, or the body changing from being inside and having different access to food or to the outdoors. I'm curious about how the pandemic changed your relationship or kind of formed how you thought about this film and filming it.
All right, I can go first again. I mean, the first thing is I'm actually not a very big nature person, but because of the pandemic, I felt like driving to the mountain suddenly becomes so attractive to me. Like I know a lot of people pick up the hobby of hiking during pandemic because it's just so suffocating, the everyday life in a small room. So I'm definitely with these people, and this definitely has influenced my perception to my body, and like why do my body kind of like naturally is drawn to the nature, and how do we think about it. And I guess second is like, yeah, like I don't know about other filmmakers, but I find a need to like, how do I effectively kind of play with a lot of the claustrophobicness and realizing that no matter what I do, some of the footage will feel a little bit claustrophobic because it was operated under a claustrophobic, claustro, like a trapped, like a small narrow space. So like that was something I was very conscious when I filmed this film. And I hope it kind of got across the point that although it was under such a condition, I still try to make the world big instead of smaller and smaller. Yeah.
I think for me, the pandemic definitely changed my, I guess even, okay, let me restart. I personally have a hard time connecting with people with masks on, even people I'm like close to and already have a connection with, but it feels like it's so simple. It's just, a piece of cloth or something over half of your face. But that was something that took a lot of getting used to. I mean, I don't think I ever really got used to of not being able to see people's faces and then therefore not feeling connected to them in a way I was used to. And I think the way that translated into my film was, and again, like the close-up shots in particular of each individual, and really just staring at them, not having there be anything, just having there be some sort of white noise in the background, and focusing on these like aspects of their face that we don't always get to see now. Because I think I feel like the pandemic emphasized to me how much power there is in just the lower half of your face, which it's funny to say, but it's true. And so, yeah, so I don't know, it made that, like those close-ups feel more powerful to me because it was a contrast to something where in the past that would have just been, people's faces.
Yeah, something that this process has made me reflect on a lot is like, so this year I've been living with all women of color. And so we've been spending a lot of time together. And it's been a really positive experience, like, because we spend so much time together. I feel like there's a sense of home, there's a sense of community and a sense of just like taking care of each other, not just like emotionally and mentally, but like physically. Like we all cook for each other. We have like family dinners, and like I feel like something that I've noticed is that about like my relationship to my body is like I see myself as something that I have to take care of and be more intentional with, because it's like my body is enduring so much right now. All of our bodies are enduring so much trauma right now, and like just surviving is hard. So it's important to take care of yourselves, and like it's easier when you have people around you who can help you do that and like help you get through the day, and also like teach you also how to take care of yourself, and like also to an extent, like this is cheesy, but like how to love yourself. I think even like our conversations have made me like feel more at home in my body a little bit, and like reflect on like some of the messed up things that I've been taught, and like how to unlearn that, and how we need other people to help do that. And Sadie's helped me do that a lot with this film.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely agree. Or I've had a similar experience in terms of like living with Erica and like the other like women and like people we live with, where something about like just like I guess the state we're in, or like the pandemic, has I think made us all closer. I feel like I've already was friends like with Erica prior to the pandemic, but I feel like through this experience and even like working on the film together, I think it definitely has brought us closer in certain things, or even just the stuff we talk about or the experiences we had now because of it, which I am like kind of like grateful for. And in terms of like, I guess my body, I'm thinking like the pandemic or my relationship. I feel like personally, I'm gonna do it like pre-pandemic, I was at a pretty good state in terms of like my body, because for me at least, physical activity was something that I like relied upon and was like feeling good, or like movement. I remember the like pandemic first started, I stopped going to the gym, or I was just like walking and stuff, and I did feel a certain like something, like I felt more stationary, kind of stuck, and it was like a weird little fogginess. But I think like once like moving in with you guys, I felt, I don't know, maybe it's just us talking, us hanging out, but I felt like more like, oh, I'm not like stuck. I feel like there's still stuff going on, there's still stuff happening, and I'm still like moving around or I'm moving and stuff, but I feel it was more intentional, like because I'm doing it with you guys, or I'm like cleaning together. Okay, now we're just talking about us, but like I think it's been good. There's been like some like highlights or like some good moments, and, like some good growth has come out of this.
Yeah, thank you for those. We have a question coming in from our YouTube live stream, a really interesting question. It says, did seeing each other and yourselves on screen so much in the pandemic with Zooming instead of in person affect how you see other people or how you made the film? I mean, just to comment one little bit more off of that, I think it's really interesting that this is the setting where, you know, we can see each other's mouths move more or less in sync with what we're saying, if at all, you know. And I think I found it really interesting also how Inappropriate and Woman House used sort of this out of sync speaking very intentionally. And I going back to the question, you know, how did was there some influence in seeing yourselves or others on screens so much during the pandemic that played into your film?
So I feel like there was a lot of aspects that like influenced me in making this film, and then I feel like there was a lot, I guess let me phrase it, there was a lot of conscious aspects, but I feel like there was a lot of also maybe like subconscious aspect, like influences on how I made the film. And so something like that, like I don't think I actively was reflecting on, okay, Zoom in particular and all of those things, but I mean, it's been a year of Zoom. It's definitely had an impact on me. And yeah, in my film, I wanted to play around with, like, which it goes back to the body where I was talking about the face, like looking at people and really seeing them in this way that I feel like in the same way that the mask kind of, you know, masks you, I feel like the screen does that to a certain extent too, which is kind of, I don't know, corny or cliche, but so again, it's like I wanted to take the time to actually look at these people and like, I don't know, like try to encourage the audience to really see them instead of just focusing on the words or the information, but like a reminder that our physical bodies and like how we observe each other, like all of that, I guess, is part of our interactions just as much as like the information that we are communicating verbally or most often of, you know, the time technologically.
Since we don't have much time left, Jishin, you're welcome to share whatever you were about to say, but just wanted to also pose to you, maybe you saw Vicky's question in the chat that was specifically for you about your editing process. She wrote, she wants to hear about your editing process because figuring out how to edit a narrative film based on dreams can be a bit amorphous, especially when you're committed to some long takes. So if you want to answer those together, just because we only have a couple.
Yeah. So, well, for the first question, having last night just helped another friend of mine doing another project, a performance piece project. I was doing the video documentation. I had this like epiphany or like this thought that I guess during pandemic, like every piece of art is sort of, we're trying to produce some counter Zoom experience because Zoom is not intentional looking, is not intentional watching, it's not intentional anything. And frankly, during the pandemic, like intention becomes so thin and like subconsciousness becomes so thick. So art is something that kind of brings back the attention. It can be loud, it can be quiet, but ultimately it is what makes us like focus again. And I think that's I think all the films here in the TriCo has done that successfully. As for the second question, editing process, yeah, so Vicky was there for most of the most of the process. So Vicky knows, but Vicky asked because Vicky wants to hear more. So to answer Vicky's question, I guess it is hard. It is hard because some of it under her suggestion, actually, I deleted the whole scene. Also under another professor's suggestion, and it's like my process is to first throw everything in and like give a rough order and then to pare them down bit by bit. So it's a film that becomes shorter and shorter, shorter, and at a certain point, add it a little bit, shorter, 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 and being just trying to sustain that mood, trying to sustain that dream experience, which wasn't very clear at the first few cuts, and because of the gracious support from Vicky and the class, and my thesis advisor and the other thesis group members, and it got very good. And so the process is like that. It is hearing a lot of feedback, for sure, because I'm too tired kind of looking at my film for 50 times and still trying to dream on it. So that was that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. If Erica and Zarahi, if you had any last minute things to add. No? All right. Well, thank you all so much. It was so wonderful to hear from you all. Your films were all incredibly beautiful, and it was great to hear you talk about them. And we'll now be transitioning into the awards ceremony.
All right, I'm assuming that was a transition to our award ceremony. And if you are not speaking at the moment, I invite you to please turn off your video. And we're super excited, and I'm just blown away by everyone having shared about their work. So thank you all so much again for the opportunity to co-curate and co-juror the films for this year's TriCo Film Festival. This year, there were 39 submissions from the 3 colleges, and of the talented makers, we have selected 3 award winners and 2 special mentions. All of these films are distinguished in their storytelling, cinematography, and the hearts of the story. If you receive the award or special mention, I invite you to please turn your camera on and say thank you very briefly and wave, and turn your camera back off, just considering limitations around time. And before I hand it off to Cristal to announce the awards, I will start off by announcing first this year's special mentions. And the special mentions are these 2 films. First is Finds You Well, directed by Grace Dumdao, for excellence in acting and storytelling that explores trauma, healing, and self-discovery during the coronavirus pandemic through the lens of a college student's experiences. Grace, if you just want to turn your video on, wave hello, and thank you so much. Thank you, Grace.
Much love, everyone.
Thank you, Grace, and congratulations to you and your amazing filmmaking. And the second special mention goes to Inappropriate, directed by Erica Kaunang and Zarahi Rivas, that you all just saw right now, for bringing to life an engaging conversation between 2 friends about the issue of sexism and patriarchy. If you all want to turn on your video, wave hello, and say thank you or anything you'd like to share. All right. Thank you both. Alrighty. Thank you both so much. And congratulations to these talented filmmakers for making these meaningful and thoughtful works. Now I'll hand it off to Cristal.
Thank you, Set. So, we really took our time in deciding which films would receive this award. Again, if you are mentioned, please turn on your camera, say thank you so much and wave so we can see you on the live stream. And please turn your camera back off again. So the award winners are, okay, Wind Globe is the first one with Hee Yu Hyung Nadia Kim. So this prize includes a PhillyCam membership, 1 ticket to the virtual CineSpeak screening, a festival pass to the Philadelphia Asian American Film Festival, a Gotham Z membership, a festival pass to the Philadelphia Latino Film Festival. It's going to be very good this year, I hear, and a Lightbox Film Center membership. And so Wind Globe, you are getting this award for outstanding stop motion animation with a unique attention to details and a story that is both powerful yet meditative. So Nadia, do you want to say thank you?
Thank you so much.
All right, congratulations. All right, the second winner will go to Imaginary, directed by Jake Rothman. So this prize includes a PhillyCam membership, 1 ticket to a CineSpeak screening, a festival pass to the Philadelphia Asian American Film Festival, a Gotham Z membership, and a 1 director level year-round membership to the Philadelphia Film Society, which includes an all-access badge to the film festival. So for your film Imaginary, you're getting this award for bringing a unique, well-written, and cinematic story with the use of a single actor that is able to bring to life an imaginary friend. So please turn on your camera and say hello. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This is my brother Manny.
Hello.
Who has collaborated in this. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's great.
Congratulations to both of you. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And so the final award of the night goes to Harisnia or the Sublime, to Chili Shi. So this prize includes a PhillyCam membership, 1 ticket to a virtual CineSpeak screening, a festival pass to the 2021 Philadelphia Asian American Film Festival, a Gotham Z membership, and a submission waiver to Doc NYC and a Lightbox Film Center membership. So you are getting this award for outstanding experimental filmmaking, transporting viewers into an introspection of spirituality and mental health through the juxtaposition of image, sound, text, and the metaphysical. So please turn on your camera and say thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations to all of the makers. You are truly an inspiration. Now I will hand it back to Sophia.
Thank you, everyone. Congratulations. And we have one last award to announce, which is our Audience Favorite Award. So the 2021 Audience Favorite Award goes to Boobs for Mom by Lexi Iglesia. Congrats, Lexi, if you want to turn your camera on. This award includes a PhillyCam membership, 1 ticket to a virtual CineSpeak screening, a festival pass to the 2021 Philadelphia Asian American Film Festival, a Gotham Z membership, and a festival pass to the Philadelphia Latino Film Festival. Congrats, Lexi.
Thanks, everyone. Love you, everyone in the chat.
Congratulations to all of our award-winning filmmakers. For everyone who won, Teddy and I will be in touch in the coming week to share information about how to access your prizes. So congrats again, and congrats to everyone who's had films in the TriCo Film Festival. This was such a special festival and so wonderful to get this extra moment to see you all in conversation.
Yeah, and I just have to say another huge thank you to all of the filmmakers, our audience members, and the Bryn Mawr Film Institute for another wonderful festival. You all still have another week to watch films on the BMFI website, so you can continue showing those with friends, watch them over and over and over again. And the entire film program will also play on PhillyCam's TV channel in July. Also, if you haven't already, we encourage you to engage with the festival's new media sidebar, which features 1 conceptual video game and several fantastic video essays. Seriously, check it out. Those are some really awesome pieces. That just about concludes the public end of our festival. At this point, everyone here on Zoom is encouraged to stay on the call to mingle and continue discussing films or anything that comes to mind. To all of our audience members, thank you so very much for joining. We truly appreciate your support. Have a wonderful night.